Much like last time, at the end of the respective arc, this is a video that subsequently recaps all the important story events and lore to get you prepared for the next step in the series. Now, that next step will not be featuring our main hero Leon. This video will sum up the events of his last adventure and keep you in the know for the next adventure in the series. After the destruction and subsequent elimination of Sephora's leadership and Karen army, I made my escape with Ashley, last in line to take control of what was left of Sephora, and the only person left who could blow the whistle on its wrongdoings. However, just as we made our escape, Ashley was taken from me before I could react or see who did it. I was left alone, with hundreds of lives lost by this adventure alone on my conscience. I needed her back, and I had no leads on where she was. I rode the speedboat as long as it would let me, and I reached another village off the coast of the island Sephora used to contract deals with the American government for the production and transportation of the Karen sites. An island that was now sitting at the bottom of the ocean. All that evidence, gone. The village I found took me in. The people were destitute, but the police force there was suspiciously well funded. It was hard to believe good people still existed after what I'd just been through. When I was ready, I went to their law enforcement and explained my situation, hoping for a lead. Thankfully, I got something. 2 detectives had been on a missing persons case over the last couple of months, and the most recent victims were 2 American tourists who were here on spring break, the same guys Ashley had for being at the village I rescued her from. Even without any contact with the outside world, including my handler Hunnigan, I had to set out in search of anything that could lead me to Ashley. It wasn't long before getting deja vu, as we reached yet another village, this one much bigger, but in a state of disrepair. The cops and I split up. Guess they didn't want any parking tickets. I work better alone anyway. Less people will get hurt that way. I reach someone's cabin and walk inside. The owner sneaks up on me, but isn't reacting to me at all until I speak Japanese, causing them to go hostile. I have no choice but to neutralize him and head into the basement. Unfortunately, all I find there are 2 things. I confirmed the body of an officer, and unconfirmed the body of the villager. Whatever he was, the rest of the village was the same, as I was consistently attacked by them on sight. Things shouldn't be this way. It's just like they were before, even down to finally finding a lead on Ashley. Upon the other officer getting lynched, it made me realize these villagers were Americans. Hating the Japanese language, lynching someone from another country, the evidence was all there. But why were they here? They were just acting like mindless, violent drones. Well, okay, maybe this wasn't out of character. Who was, however, their head honcho, who with a march and a look in his eyes like he wanted to bite, came at me with a chainsaw. I escaped, thankfully, in search of a lake, where it was hinted Ashley was nearby. All I found along the way was combat, and before getting anywhere near a lake, I have a reunion I wasn't expecting. Special Agent Hadadon, the woman who gave Sephora's experimental makeup to her boss, was in the village too. Although I suspected the resurgence of the Karen site, her presence confirms it. She said when she was returning to her boss, she was captured by a man who was flying a sleigh. Unfortunately, her delirium was proven false, as none other than Santa Claus knocks us both out and takes us elsewhere. I wake up and realize 2 things. My new jacket is gone, and I'm handcuffed to Hada. I could get used to this. Hada escapes before giving any real answers, and I follow close behind. Another reunion occurs. My British gunsmith friend was here too, and I took a rest by him before pressing on. Danger was everywhere. and Freddy Fazbear stood in my way, ready to begin night 2. My gun's raw power punches through his metal and he goes down. But that doesn't explain why he was here. Or Santa, for that matter. I reach Santa's house and discover a key with the same logo as the door to the village. I'll make my way back there soon. Santa finds me because he can see all, and gets the upper hand on me, until he knows a gift in my blood. I must have been a good boy. Santa is distracted before he can say more, and I get out of dodge before he can catch up. The key to the village works, and I'm getting closer to the lake, reaching a dock area and fishing village. I'm able to refuel a boat and set off to find a way into the church I passed earlier. Unfortunately, I'm stopped by a familiar-looking creature in the water. I have no choice but to combat it, sending the poor thing back to the depths one last time. After making landfall, I go on a short detour to get an object that I assume would get me into the church, and along the way, discover the bodies of the 2 girls here on spring break. Girls that Ashley had once spoken about being here with before initially getting separated. Their names were Shelley and Linda, and I'll make sure they're added to whatever memorial will stand above the ashes of everyone who caused this. After my detour proves fruitful, another familiar face shows up, but as an enemy. The ogre himself stops me from my journey. Yet another popular icon working for what I can only speculate as either the remnants of Sephora or their superiors. But I couldn't get out of this swamp now. I had someone to free, and nobody would stop me. Another warped figure of joy goes down, and I lament just how much damage greed and fame did to these former figureheads of fun. I get into the church, and thank goodness. I find Ashley where I expected, trying to get into the communion wine before she turns 21. I'm grateful she has a spare outfit for me as well, given the oncoming rain. I don't know how she escaped her captors, but for once, I was so happy to see her. Unfortunately, the villagers weren't. And through the pouring rain, we fight and struggle through mud and blood, protecting Ashley at every turn from their clutches. We almost reach a dead end, until Hada shows up and guides us into a cabin. While it's nice to be out of the monsoon, the villagers have the same idea, and bust their way in. Ashley hides, and it's up to Hada and I to fight our way through. In the nick of time, Ashley shows off a surprising amount of courage and competence, and finds a back door out of the village while we distracted everyone else. She seems to be overcoming her fear. Smart girl. We escape, barely, and Ashley coughs up blood, which is bad. Hada uncharacteristically shows compassion and gives us answers. The problem with Ashley is the same problem Hada had that caused her to make her transition. I was shocked. I thought she had finally transitioned of her own accord, but it seems like it was out of necessity. Hada doesn't reveal what said problem is, but it states she knows how to fix it for Ashley and for me. Me? Yes, it seems I was infected too. That must be the gift Santa mentioned. And it must be whatever causes these popular mascots to become so hostile. Maybe it's too late for them, but I wouldn't let it get Ashley too. Hada runs off and I follow. I walk in on a conversation between her and her boss, Albert Wesker. They mention the Amber as a goal for Hada, but no further details are stated. It was time to leave the village before they all caught up to us. But there was one problem. One big problem. Santa Claus. He can see us from anywhere, so it'll always be just a matter of time before he gets us. Well, I guess that leaves only one solution. We get him first. He traps me in a shed, but the small arena is perfect to keep Santa contained, given his speed. Unfortunately, it was also an easy way to pin me down too. A battle in flames leads to me as the victor, and with a shot from the only gift that matters, Santa drops, leaving behind his magic eye to see people with. Ashley rescues me from the burning shed, risking not only her life but her clothes too. I don't know if she was trying to save me or her outfit, but I'm alive either way. We leave the village using a drawbridge and find a castle as our next destination. Act 2 begins with a fight against a new foe, who was currently unknown. We battle to the entrance of the castle, and the identity of our new foes become clear. Michael Mouse steps out from above, condemning me to death, and Ashley to watching the new Disney live-action movie. She told him she'd rather share my fate than do that, and he sends his allies to hunt us. His allies had to be none other than Disney adults, whose greed and lack of empathy made them perfect targets for the Karen site. Maybe even more perfect than anyone else. The entirety of Club 33 must be watching me battle my way through hordes of people who are more childish than children, but half as emotionally intelligent. They must be laughing at the idea that people who would kill to be in Club 33 are now being killed defending it. Ashley does something new and kidnaps herself. But she wasn't acting like herself. It wasn't like she was being manipulated. It was like she was becoming someone else. I had to rescue her. Again. Before I can, I'm stopped by Albert Wesker, who tells me to leave Ashley behind before it's too late. Knowing better than to trust his attempt at sympathy, I find Ashley and console her. She seems extremely shaken up by her condition, which is understandable. Her bodily autonomy is actively being taken away from her by people who cause only pain to others for their own benefit, under the guise that they're trying to save the place that they live. And I promise her that we will take those people down together until their names won't even be important enough for a social media post. She is cheered up by this, but even more so when I offer to find us new clothes, given the condition of our current ones. Before we can plot an escape, Hada asks for a rescue through my earpiece, something I didn't think worked since trying to call Hunnigan at the end of my last foray into cosmetic horror. I oblige, as Hada might be the only way to save Ashley regardless of what happens to me. There was no telling what I would do if my mind changed. Trekking through the castle causes me to put on a suit of armor for no reason, and collect pieces of a chimera to make our way to Hada's location. But Club 33 catches up and separates Ashley and I from one another. But she was resourceful, and for the first time, I believed in her to protect herself in my absence, especially if I end up. I was separated from Leon, but I grabbed his extra hand cannon from that weapon seller's storage box. Anyone who can willingly sell this caliber of gun is not to be trusted. I was terrified, but I had to show Leon that I wouldn't abandon him, and not just because he was the one rescuing me, because I would rescue him too. Suits of armor are apparently nothing when compared to a 50 caliber round, so I make my way back up to him quickly. I hope he'll be proud of me. Ashley thankfully returns not long after disappearing. I was honestly surprised she didn't leave me behind. I wouldn't have blamed her, but there she is, rescuing me for once. I'm so proud of her. Ashley is snuck up on and kidnapped once more, perfectly holding her in a position where I can't take a shot at him. Damn it. I had to get her back now. Hada calls me again, seeing where Ashley was taken, and I continue my journey to rescue them both. Thankfully, I run into Ashley first. Unfortunately, I'm pinned down and forced to watch Mickey perform a ritual on her, with unknown consequences. Ashley is then forced to watch me plummet into the depths, which end up leading me to a sewer system housing a laboratory. Inside this lab is the second coming of Vindugo, who must have been resurrected by Disney after his franchise failed. The Vindugo is faster and more aggressive, but I don't have time for him now, and send him back to his family in a bag. Ascending an elevator shows me a vision of some man, who I'd seen before, trying to communicate with me. The closer in my head he is, the more I feel myself losing control of my own body. But I had to ignore it, at least long enough to say Ashley. I was the one who was saved, as Hadadong waited for me at the top of the elevator. She gave me a suppressant that somehow she had, and a new outfit. Shedding my bomber jacket one last time, Hada and I teamed up again to brave the depths of these mines. Hada notices my suspicions, and said that regardless of her actions, her intentions are to make up for her past sins, and that I had to believe in that being true above all else. She sounded more sincere than I'd ever heard her, and we continued silently. Freddy Fazbear starts up night 3, but I know by now that fire purifies him, and it was time to eliminate him for good. Deeper still, Hada reveals the importance of this mine. It was where the Karen site was first ever discovered, fossilized in amber. It was clear that Hada's mission was to get one of these fossils to her boss, but I don't think she knew I knew that. Our escape culminates in a minecart ride through the mountain, and for the first time, it seems like Hada is truly enjoying herself. One ride through Space Mountain ends in a splash. And we take an elevator up. Now she reveals her piece in the puzzle. She helped uncover the fossils from this mine at the behest of Albert Wesker. They had been dormant for a long time until Mickey discovered them, and wanted to use them to amass a huge empire of subservience. But he's already done that. Are the Karen sites already rampant in the outside world? Given how many castles he has across the entire world. She also mentions that her and Lewis had been working together for a long time to bring down this operation underneath the noses of both Wesker and Sephora's superiors. The elevator takes us closer to a lab Hada says will cure both Ashley and myself when we find her. Could we really leave together? My happiness is short-lived, as an unknown assailant strikes Hada down before my eyes, and comes for me next. He acts like he knows me, and beyond him looking familiar, I can't place him. Right now, he was just an obstacle, and he was between me and Hada, and that I cannot allow. My confidence is ill-founded, as I'm too distracted to fight efficiently. Before the man can strike me down, a wounded Hada takes a shot, causing him to flee, and I'm left with Hada, who was too far gone to be saved now. With her dying breath, she hands me a key to Lewis's lab, the one that can save Ashley and I from our afflictions. An affliction I don't even understand yet. Hada becomes yet another casualty in the struggle to end this threat, and I have no choice but to leave her behind. It was time to end this. Or so I thought, as finally getting to the mouse leads me to overhear him giving Ashley to Hada's killer, and telling him to give regards to their superiors. Mickey wasn't the top dog here, despite just how much power he has over the world's economy. I have no idea who could be above him, but I would have to go through him to find out. I had no sympathy for the ones I put down now. At least with Sephora's minions, it was an internal family struggle with psychological causation, but now, my enemy's goals were pure dominion over everyone they deemed lesser than themselves. As usual, the greed of a capitalist is very easily quelled by a high-powered magnum, and the fall of the House of Mouse is completed. and I was ready to prove just how important it was that they knew they were the ones who were outnumbered, not us. Hada's assailant drives Ashley away using a boat, and I have the unfortunate luck of having to ride shotgun to Albert Wesker. I wonder just how close by he was when Hada was killed. But I knew better than to get answers from him. I'm taken to an island, which turns out to be the world's second biggest Amazon warehouse. And the beginning of the end begins. The warehouse is simply a gauntlet of all remaining forces loyal to their corporate overlords, as Jill Valentine would say. And I'm forced to mow down Amazon's minimum wage workforce as they use Amazon basic firearms against me. However, no generic brand rocket launcher can match a Smith & Wesson. Eventually, the pharmaceutical branch of Amazon is revealed, and I make my way through their labs. No, really. Amazon sells prescription medication now, so I'm not inaccurate in this comparison. It's dystopian, isn't it? A new enemy appears as a result of blind loyalty to capitalism. The Magadors are the newest victims experimented on with the promise of a better world. Little did they know, no world is better with them in it. So I take some of them out in order to gain access to a cell that Ashley is thankfully safely kept in. But when I get to her, something is different. She is different. She exudes a more preppy personality. She has a short fuse, and she is demeaning over the littlest things. She seems more like the way she was when I first met her, when she was simply the daughter of Sephora. I can't turn my back on her now, so I can't let her get to me. Stopping by the merchant grants me a gift, an outfit that I've never seen before but instantly have a strong attachment to. It fits perfectly, and without explanation, I move on. A big arena ahead shows that Ashley has some of her old self still, and she mans a wrecking ball while I hold off against an army of wage slaves. A large struggle ends with our escape, and Ashley says that she wants to become partners as agents when we return home. Something about having a partner didn't sit well with me. I usually work alone. Everyone I fight with seems to die. As much as I wanted to love her idea, my confidence in our escape was lessening. I was tired. And something about Ashley was still off to me. Taking a rest in a storeroom leads us to be found by the Big Kahuna, the man behind the massacre, the Count of Capitalism, and one of the last hurdles in my way to getting out of this hell for good. Milton Moneybags, the monocled master of mayhem, the monopoly man himself. Without much enticement, Ashley reveals she has turned to their side and retrieves my firearm. Thankfully, it wasn't the hand cannon, so she was not allowed to use it on me. She leaves with Moneybags, but I can't help but notice her mournful stare. I knew that even if she betrayed me, I had faith that this isn't what she wanted. So now, it was time to find Moneybags and save Ashley. One last time. Standing in my way was an army. First and foremost, him. Hada's assailant. The identity of him eating away at me despite not recognizing him. But as he antagonized me, the memories came back. His name was Virgil, and he was my older brother. And my old partner, when starting out as an agent. Flooded with visions of the past, Virgil helps fill in the blanks as we fight. Most notably so, Operation Javier. A chronicle in my career that delved into the dark side of ambition. As usual, it started as a routine drug bust, but turned into something much more. Just as makeup can hide the parts of ourselves we wish others not to see, The drug cartel was just a front for something deeper. Bioorganic weapons would become a global threat. And it was up to us to stop their production. I was the only survivor, or so I thought. That's why my memories go fuzzy. It was up to Virgil, no, my big brother, to explain the rest. He said that his death was faked once he learned that the cartel wasn't South American like originally thought. It was North American. We were sent by our government to contain and cover up a mistake by our government. We were killing our own men. And when we barely succeeded, our bosses decided to finish the job and hunt us down. First, they went after Virgil to silence him. But he knew better and prepped for this outcome. An outcome I was too naive to predict. And he faked his death. Fooling everyone, including me, I apparently went into shock, repressing my memories of Operation Javier and of my brother. Learning this, the government decided I was no longer a threat, and kept me employed due to my potential and my skill after learning from Virgil, their best agent. But now that he was back, we weren't partners anymore. He was fighting for Moneybags. Why? Am I still too naive to understand bitter truths? No. I just ignore them all. But I wasn't running from the truth anymore. Virgil must be on their side as revenge on our bosses for what they did to their men. And what they wanted to do with the world. Moneybags must have promised Virgil power against all foes, and a big spot in whatever new world would arise when the Karen site usurped the government. I couldn't let that happen. Even if it means saving the world that does nothing but turn against those who fight for it. Even when Virgil unleashes his true power, I'm able to overcome it, finally surpassing the man who taught me everything I knew. My brother. As I stood above him one last time, neither one of us comments on the irony that the agent they kept alive would be the one to kill the agent they couldn't. With one last push, the approaching storm subsided, and the life of my brother extinguished. Even an army couldn't stop my anger, and in one fell swoop, I blasted my way through the last roadblock to Moneybags. He was in my sights now, and so was Ashley, who was unconscious on the most uncomfortable-looking bed. Before I could reach her, I felt the pull of greed. She betrayed me. She's changed. She won't make the world better. She'll cover it all up, too. Moneybags enters and whispers these things to me, and I almost agree with him. Who's to say Ashley wouldn't just perpetuate this tragedy? Should she really be saved? I'm knocked out of my thoughts by gunfire, coming from somewhere I can't see. Someone lights up Moneybags, giving me just enough time to save Ashley. I could never leave her behind. She deserves another chance, even if I don't get one. Visions of my old dreams flash before me, urging me to turn back and get everything I ever wanted. But I wouldn't fall for the sweet lies of those who think they're superior to me. Ashley isn't going to be an agent with me. We're getting the hell out, and living our lives free from any government's grip. I reach Lewis's lab weak and uneasy, and with the last bit of strength, I place Ashley in the machine and activate it. Either she would come back to me, or we would both be lost. Everything is up to her now. I awaken to a cured Ashley, but she suffered scarring in the process due to her giving into the Karen site before being rescued. Scars that make her look like her brother Ash, the disgraced heir of Sephora. She didn't care. She was just happy we were both free, finally free. Or at least we will be. But we needed one final push to get out. I find the merchant for a final trade and realize the truth. This merchant was also an American agent, sent in to follow me and collect the spoils of my journey. I was still covering up for my own damn bosses, who were going to profit off the deaths of thousands regardless of our success or failure. I hoard my supplies and see Albert Wesker tied up, which surprisingly does nothing for me. I knew better than to go unprepared. I wasn't naive anymore. This was a trap. But it was my only course of action. I freed Wesker, who joins me in a final confrontation with the Monopoly Man, mastermind behind a nightmare that all started with makeup I left in a car so long ago. My confidence was finally unwavering. Ashley's courage proved to me that we can survive through every property of his, not by chance, but by skill. And now it was time that he paid his debt, which was much deeper than going straight to jail. The joint effort behind Wesker and I brought money bags down, putting the final nail in the coffin of this cosmetic catastrophe. Or, so I thought. As the amber, a pure Karenite, was taken by Wesker, revealing his intentions all along. He asks me to join him in taking down the remainder of Moneybag's dwindling forces. But I knew better. He was just making room for himself and his own regime. I refuse, and he leaves, and I vow to come back for him whenever he tries to realize his scheme. The island crumbles around us, all the evidence with it, and Ashley guides me to an elevator down. We stumble our way through the mountains until we find Hada's old jet ski. I guess it wouldn't be the end of an adventure without it. Ashley grips me tight, and with one final drive, we escape into the sunset. Or sunrise, actually. Ashley tells me that her scars might be for the best, and she'd rather bear them than to try and ignore the sins of her family. She says she would take accountability for her family, and now that she looked like her brother, maybe she could even take control of the company before it fell apart. She says that if I want a position underneath her, as her bodyguard, of course, that it was mine. But I think she was strong enough to live for herself now. Something she would never have dreamed of before, as the spoiled shut-in of Sephora. She smiles, and we drive away. This'll be a fun story to tell Hunnigan, if I ever see her again.